Hi, I'm Eric, and I'm back with another video. It is October 1st, 2025, and a couple of things have come up that I want to talk about. And one of the things, of course, is Trump's famous speech before the 800 or odd generals and admirals. And I want to talk about the reaction to that, and I also want to talk about what I would say some good news and some bad news. So I'm going to start off by not going to try and do a Trump imitation. I'm just going to read what he said at the beginning of his talk. So he says, "Fantastic job. I've never walked into a room so silent before. This is very interesting. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. You're not allowed to laugh. You're not allowed to do that. You know what? Just have a good time. And if you want to applaud, you applaud. And if you want to do anything you want, you can do anything you want. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank, there goes your future. But you just feel nice and loose, okay? Because we're all on the same team. And I told you that, sir. I was told that, sir, you won't hear a murmur in the room." So I commented on this. Larry Johnson did a post that was addressed some of this issue. And the question is, why did these guys show up? Was it just for this speech, which was basically grandstanding with Trump, talking about how wonderful he is and everything's great, and how everybody else is bad and he's good and everything is just wonderful under him, and we've got the best military, and he made some remark about we've got the best submarines, they're the most quiet submarines, and the Russians and the Chinese don't, but they're 5 years behind, but they're coming up. So he was talking about that. So this is what I had to say on Larry Johnson's blog regarding a hidden agenda with the generals. That should be obvious. Distract the people with the overt event, which was pomp and circumstance, as Shakespeare once said. I'm paraphrasing Shakespeare here. A tale told by two idiots, Trump and Hegseth, full of sound and fury and signifying nothing. It's what happened behind the scenes. And Hegseth's urging a fit warrior culture likewise has overtones reminiscent of the 30s. Somebody has brought up that one of Russia's greatest generals was fat and overweight and lived a kind of dissolute life. I was immediately reminded of General Zhukov, who was the top general during World War II, and he was a very portly person. And who was it? I think it was Vatutin was another famous general. He was killed by Ukrainian, nationalists. But these guys were not in the best of shape, but they were great strategists. So Hegseth's kind of got it wrong that way. Not to mention the fact that the commander-in-chief is not exactly Mr. Universe. Anyway, it was also telling that there was no big applause as Trump entered, which even he noted, perhaps a silent affront to him personally. Apparently, the top brass is not impressed with the leader, der Leader, which in German would be translated Führer. Trump said people could walk out, but that would be the end of their career. That was a subtle threat demanding loyalty to him, Trump, as the Chinese say, a sword hidden in a smile. So, hi there. Yeah, do as I say, or else I'm going to screw you big time. I saw a documentary about Marshal von Paulus, a career German military officer who was just following orders. Following the destruction of his army at Stalingrad, which was really the turning point of World War II, years later he realized that he should not have obeyed the orders of the quote-unquote Bohemian corporal, that is Hitler, who never became more than a crippled corporal in the German army during World War I, but rose to be the commander-in-chief, and he lost a war, And so he said he never should have obeyed the orders of the Bohemian corporal, which led Germany to disaster. So I'm making an analogy here that it may be that the career military, the real career military, who have not been corrupted by careerism, that is just getting higher up in rank and getting perks and ending up getting a multi-million-dollar sinecure for lobbying firms and things like that. There are those in the military who have not been corrupted by careerism and see Trump for what he is. So there could be implicit threats against those people to get in line or get kicked out. And meanwhile, get ready for some big arrow offensives to show the world who's boss. Trump and Hegseth bragged about the most powerful military with the best submarines, advanced nuclear weapons, etc., which is patently not true. Russia has comparable submarines, and its nuclear weapons are at least as good, and they're actually in newer and better condition. And Russia also has far more advanced delivery systems than the United States has. The United States was trying to develop a successor to the Minuteman system, which was developed during the Reagan era, and they haven't been able to do it. They haven't been able to do a hypersonic missile. So this is an overestimation of Trump and Hegseth's imagined vision of what the U.S. military is capable of. All this could be psyching Trump's base. So if the defeat in Ukraine is the equivalent of Trump's Stalingrad, because this is like a major defeat, a major strategic defeat of the collective West against Russia, he could be planning something big to seize back the initiative. That's all I'm saying. They could be just desperate and irrational enough to be thinking and planning such actions. We'll find out. Now, I want to move on a little bit because what I'm seeing here as an ongoing observer of all this, I've been watching these events unfold for at least the last 10 years or more. There's dissent among former supporters, especially former military conservatives and young conservatives. So I just did a check, and it says that Trump's approval rating as of September 28th, that's like 2 days ago, is minus 13%. So there were 4 polls. I checked the on the internet. There are 4 polls, and it's like there's 40% positive and 53% on average, 53% negative. So that's a negative 13%. This comes from a particular website. Then I did a check with an AI check because they simplify research. So they say a comparison of presidential approval ratings 8 months in. So Donald Trump, his first term in September 28th, 2017, his approval rating was 38 to 39%. His disapproval rating was 55 to 56%. So his net approval rating back in 2017 was minus 17%. A minus 13% rating would be slightly better than Trump's actual performance at this point in his first term. His ratings were historically low and stable throughout his presidency back then. Then you have Barack Obama, this is again as of September 2009 during the Obama administration. His approval rating was 52 to 54%, disapproval rating was 40 to 41%. Net approval approximately plus 12%. So a minus 13% of the Trump administration now versus a plus 12% is dramatically worse than Obama's position. Obama was still enjoying a post-election honeymoon period, though it was eroding as the debate over the Affordable Care Act intensified. Then we move on to George W. Bush in September 28, 2001. And the context is that this is a unique case because 9/11 had just occurred 2 weeks earlier, and his approval rating was 85 to 90%. However, one should remember that his approval rating was quite low, before 9/11, and then it shot up. So his net approval rating was plus 70%. And again, a minus 13% is not even in the same universe as Bush's rating at this point, which was the highest ever recorded due to the rally around the flag effect. Then we have Joe Biden in September 28, 2021. His approval rating was 44 to 46%. His disapproval rating was 50 to 52%, minus 50 to 52%, a net approval of minus 6%. So a minus 13% rating is significantly worse than Biden's. His approval had been declining steadily throughout the summer due to the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan and rising inflation. So you sum all that up, George W. Bush's approval rating was plus 70%, Barack Obama plus 12%, Joe Biden minus 6%, Donald Trump in 2025 minus 13%, and Donald Trump in 2017 minus 17%. The conclusion here is that the net approval rating of minus 13% at the eight-month mark would place a hypothetical President Trump in 2025 in a very difficult position, similar to his historically low ratings during his first term. It's significantly weaker than the ratings of Obama, Bush, and Biden at the same juncture. It's only slightly better than his own performance rating in 2017, but you have to take that with mitigating circumstances because of Russiagate, which is a questionable reason to it caused a lot of trouble for the Trump administration, and not that it wasn't necessarily deserved, but the Russiagate that was not deserved. That was a Democratic National Committee scam that's been proven by such notable people as Ray McGovern, who was a former CIA analyst, and William Binney, who was a highly professional intelligence person. So moving on here, this indicates a president who has lost his honeymoon period very quickly and is facing a highly polarized and disapproving electorate from the outset. So I ask the question, what do unpopular presidents do to improve their ratings? They go to war. Okay, now there are some positive signs here. There are two interesting trends that I see, and I haven't heard anyone actually talk about this first one. The whole Israeli attack on Gaza and their treatment of the Palestinians has really shocked and galvanized young people. So the colleges, that is the liberal colleges, you have major demonstrations against the Israeli government. It's been so much that Trump has been cracking down on them, and giving this is an attack on civil liberties. In fact, attack on the First Amendment, which is unconscionable. But the reality is that there's a lot of young people who are very upset about the way that Israel's been treating Palestine. They want an end to that. But the other aspect is that the young followers of Charlie Kirk, who were conservative, have also shifted from the mindless support of Israel based on biblical myth to recognition of genocide as inherently unacceptable. Likewise, many popular former military officers who had believed Trump would stop the wars are now regretting their former support. So when I'm, going on the internet and I'm looking at some of what I consider to be authorities in military affairs, you have Scott Ritter, who was the weapons inspector he helped dismantle the Soviet missile system following the signing of the INF Treaty. Yeah, so he's a person with impeccable, credentials. He was saying that the weapons of mass destruction lie presented by the United States government as an excuse to attack Iraq was flatly untrue. And there's actually a clip where he is talking with Joe Biden, who was in the Senate at that time. And Scott Ritter says, I do not believe there's weapons of mass destruction. And so there's no reason to go to war. And Joe Biden says, sir, you're operating above your pay grade. None of your goddamn business what you think and what the evidence is. We're going to war on Iraq, and we don't care what your opinion is. That was Joe Biden's, mentality, in which that's been his mentality his whole life. Then you have Doug McGregor, who is also a career veteran. He was a colonel. And Daniel Davis, Larry Wilkerson, these are all military men, and they were all saying, that our foreign policy based on militarism is really not working. The way we're treating Russia is based on falsehoods. And so those are the people that I listen to. Karen Kwiatkowski is another one. Matt Ho is another one. Bill Astore is another one. Andrei Basovich. These are all retired military people who are calling out the Trump administration, saying that this is the policies that they're pursuing are not helpful. And then you also have people like Ray McGovern is someone like that. Larry Johnson and Phil Giraldi. These are all former CIA people, and they're all I would say they come from a politically conservative background, which is the opposite of I'm basically left-wing anti-war from the Vietnam War movement, but it's significant that you have people like these conservatives who are saying that our foreign policy is simply it's not workable and we have to do something about it. So that's a positive sign. And likewise, you have former establishment diplomats and conservative intellectuals speaking out against U.S. policies. So former diplomats such as Chaz Freeman and Alistair Crook and Jack Matlock. And you have academics like John Mearsheimer and Stephen Walt and James Carden, not to mention leftists. These are like middle-of-the-road types of people, whereas academics like Michael Hudson or Richard Wolff are far left. They're basically share an ideology quite similar to mine, and they're completely opposed to the military-industrial complex as well. So what we're seeing is that, there's one other, is that there's a YouTube channel called Judging Freedom with a former Fox News host, Judge Andrew Napolitano. And he often has leftist journalists on, like Max Blumenthal or Aaron Mate. So what I'm seeing here, which is a hopeful sign, is that there's a kind of a realization of reality among people on the conservative right and on the progressive left. Even Bernie Sanders, who's it's questionable how useful he is, because he kind of talks the talk half the time, but he doesn't really walk the walk. But at least he talks the talk, So what I'm seeing is a kind of a confluence of conservative people and leftist type of people. And basically what they're saying is, hey guys, we in America have some serious problems. We need to address them. And our aggressive foreign policy and our militarism is really not helping anybody at all. We need to fix the roads and take better care of our people. Well, gee whiz, that sounds, are they communists? They're saying that the government actually has a responsibility to take care of the people. What a shock. But that's what they're doing. So that's where I feel kind of hopeful that maybe some return to sanity will happen in the United States as things go forward. Just in closing in this discussion is that I just saw a video. I just saw an email from a Russian expert named Gilbert Doctorow, and he's saying that in Russia there's a lot of a criticism of Vladimir Putin, because they feel that these Russians feel that the war should have ended a long time ago, that Putin has been treating Ukraine with kid gloves. They should do a capitation strike, get rid of the Nazi leadership, Zelensky, and the Budanov, who is has been conducting terrorist attacks against Russia for months and years. Russia, they know how to find these people. They could get rid of them. The whole regime could be gone in a day or less, and then there'd be a chance for a real change in the entire coup regime, which was installed by Biden, would be swept away immediately, and then you'd have something that could come out of this tragedy. So, but I haven't listened to his. He's going to talk about it some more. But on the other hand, so he's talking about Russia causing a bigger offensive in Ukraine, and on the other hand, you have Trump, whose ratings are low, historically low. And what do presidents do when their ratings are historically low? They launch attacks. Bill Clinton did that when his ratings were low with the Monica Lewinsky scandal, and he ended up bombing some pharmaceutical plant in Sudan, claiming that it was a chemical weapons facility. So whenever American presidents do something stupid like launching a war or killing a bunch of innocent people, their approval ratings go up. So that's I'm concerned about that. So we'll just have to see how this is all going to play out. There are forces for sanity, and there are forces for continued and increased war. And we just don't know. We're going to have to see how this all plays out. But I am concerned about the fact that Trump really is showing more and more egotistical and narcissistic and authoritarian tendencies, which could create some serious problems and splits within the U.S. military itself, and could result in the kind of authoritarian crackdown on civil society that has been in slow motion over the past 25 years since the September 11th and the Patriot Act. But they're like speeding up, and because Trump is desperate, he may do things that really cause problems. So we're in a state that's uncertain, and it's not looking great, but there are some possibilities that something could come out of it. So that's basically what I want to say today, and thanks for listening. Please be sure to like and share it, and discuss it with your friends. And if you can, please help support my channel by contributing to my PayPal account, or to buy me a coffee, or to subscribe to my Substack channel. So thanks again for listening, and I will talk to you soon.